Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a blustery Friday afternoon. The temperature's going like this, along with the humidity. It is what it is. Tomorrow is the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. I remember as a kid, my mom telling me that, and we could stay out until the streetlights came on. In my mind, we could stay out half the night. In later years, I worked with a nice gentleman, heck of a fabricator. He could build anything. After he retired, he took great pleasure into driving down to the place we both worked the day after the solstice, just to tell me the days are now getting shorter, and before you know it, it would be dark early. He thought that was funny. So, back to what's in front of me. Today we're going to talk about the case saver, different versions of the case saver for a Turbo 400. I'm going to grab the camera and just shine it into the case over here so we all know we're all on the same page of what we're talking about. So let me grab you, give you the tour. So areas of concern in this video in a stock Turbo 400 case is the lack of case lugs in this void right here. That hole that I've driven the pin out of, that used to be the pinhole for the front band, the anchor hole, and this hole up through the band apply servo area that's now used to attach one of the brands of case savers. Let's get into it. Whether you retain the front band in a Turbo 400 largely depends on the style of valve body and your level of modifications and the purpose of the vehicle. Rock crawlers, street-driven vehicles like to retain the front band. It allows you to downshift freely, and this helps to slow the internals of the transmission. Without it, downshifting a manual valve body Turbo 400, you just have to use your head. It's perfectly acceptable if you're in high gear and you're slowing down to turn into a driveway or a side street. When you get down to a reasonable mile an hour, you can click it into second and then to first, apply throttle, do what you have to do. You don't want to do it at highway speeds. You don't want to use that to slow down going down a hill. The best advice, and the advice that probably comes to the valve body, is to come to a complete stop before you downshift. But practical use, driven many miles with a reverse manual valve body or a forward manual valve body, I suppose, but all my experience is reverse manual valve body, shifting away from neutral, is in those scenarios, turning onto a side street without stopping, and you don't want to continue to accelerate in high gear. You want to click it down a gear, go ahead, give it some throttle, you're good. So to remove the front band, you have to drive out the anchor pin out of the case, and now it leaves an empty hole. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. You can retain the front band and do something about the weak snap ring area in a Turbo 400, so let's sidebar on that for a minute. If the Turbo 400 has an Achilles heel or whatever, fable you want to relate to it, second gear, the way it's designed and what this set of clutches has to do, they're splined into the case in those lugs, and they have to stop the direct drum completely from counter-rotating. They got a pretty big job to do. They grab onto the troublesome sprag on the back of the direct clutch drum. So not only is there a void in the case of lugs, General Motors used a very weak snap ring. This thing is not strong. So when you're building a performance Turbo 400, you have a few choices. If you want to retain the front band, Sonics, among others, make a case saver that now just hangs on the front anchor pin. The band still attaches. And this case saver supports the upper snap ring that holds the intermediate clutches in, It's also held in place by the bevel snap ring that holds the center support in the case. The only mod you have to do, other than checking clearances, is in this area here where it's solid on the pressure plate for the intermediate clutches. You have to grind out a groove for that to fit. And in all case savers, or anything you add inside the transmission that was never there, you got to make sure the drums aren't going to rub on it. You just have to do a visual check, spin it, make sure that all your spinning parts are free to spin. So if you want to retain the front band, because you're an off-road guy, whatever reason, all the reasons I talked about, you can do it. And this case saver is a Sonex. It fits up to, I believe, a 1998 4L80E as well. So it fits all Turbo 400s and 4L80Es up to 98. And Sonex offers a longer one. I believe it's longer this way because they made some changes after 98. And they make one for that as well. So if you want to support the intermediate snap ring in your 4L80E, you can do what we're talking about here. So first upgrade every transmission I build, this gets tossed. I guess it would make a good ring toss if you wanted to make a game out of it. I have hundreds of them. The 4L80E also offers a spiral lock in this position, but this is a 727 torque flight snap ring. I'm not even sure where it goes in the transmission, one of the clutch drums, and it is considerably beefier. You can buy these in different thicknesses if you need to adjust your intermediate clutch clearance a little bit. You can find these for 10 bucks or less if you shop around. Find some old 727s, buy brand new ones. They're out there. So not a very expensive upgrade, but every transmission gets a heavy duty snap ring and you lose the stock one. Cost wise, the first Sonex case saver I showed you is 40 bucks, give or take. I'm sure there's other versions that do the same thing. I know Rossler makes one. They're probably all around that. The style we're going to talk about today more in depth is this aluminum style case saver that actually fills the void. It bolts right in, supports the snap ring all the way across almost. It bolts in through where the anchor pin was with this 3/8 conical head bolt, and you actually put a nut on the outside. Tip I can tell you, when you drive the anchor pin out with a punch, it offers a little resistance at first, but it pops right out. It's very tight on a 3/8 bolt, and you'll find yourself inside the case trying to wind this through. And this is one of the areas and modifications that, if you watch my channel, you know I'm not a big fan of RTV or overuse of it. I'm a fan of it. It has its purpose. In certain areas, you have to use it. In this case, I install a bolt like this in the case saver, and I go ahead and put some clear, or any color you choose, sealer over the bolt. I shove it through the case and loosely start and eventually tighten the nut from the outside, so I've sealed the hole. It's hidden behind the case saver from splash pretty much, but I don't want an annoying leak. And not going to be a big deal to clean up when I have to remove this every time I pull the snap ring out, which you have to. So that's how this is attached. It bolts through the case, and then up through the front band apply servo hole, you have this shouldered bolt that threads into the bottom. So like I mentioned, maybe I didn't say it, I take a 3/8 drill and I just run it through the anchor pin hole in the side of the case while I'm prepping the case. That way, my bolt goes right through. I have to seal it anyway. It probably does a better job. It allows a little more sealer around the bolt. It makes assembly and disassembly a lot easier. So I put silicone on it. I put this through the hole, start the nut. Leave it kind of loose, because when you tighten this shouldered bolt up through the servo hole, the shoulder should hit on the aluminum piece. It's a nice rugged finished position, and this bolt can't move a whole lot. So this is tight, that's tight, we're good. So, did I mention that the FTI version that I have right here in my hand is $55? And I've been buying these for a long time. They all fit. You have to check your drum clearance as well. I've only ever had to grind one, and I don't know if it was an FTI or not, but I had to relieve this area a little bit only one time, and I put in a lot of them. So, now we're moving on to a comparison. As always happens over time, or not in every part, but here's a great piece, $55, an affordable upgrade to your transmission you're going to have thousands of dollars in. Along comes an eBay imposter. So, in the interest of science, I saw these the other day. The more you bought, the cheaper they were. So, I decided, again, in the interest of science, and maybe if they weren't completely junk, they'd be fine in a hot rod, a street transmission, etc. I wouldn't put it in something with higher level parts in it than that because, for what I'm going to show you, and this is the first one I've seen, but in the interest of science, I mean, they were $7 and change a piece, so I bought $55 worth. So that's 6 of them. I bought 6 of them. I went a little overboard. I was hoping they'd be okay. And then it arrived, and I've been playing with it, and here's what I found. Obviously, they didn't design it, and as often is the case, they don't know exactly what they're doing. They probably never installed one in a transmission. They just took this and tried to copy it. They did a pretty decent job. The bolt, while it looks cheaper, if you will, it's a 3/8 shouldered bolt, and the length is correct. It's identical to the FTI. The serrated 3/8 course nut, flange nut, very similar. If I set them next to each other, I probably couldn't tell them apart. The aluminum piece itself, this has a cheaper appearance. This looks like real billet aluminum. This looks like something, it's not a casting, but it has a different texture and a different color. So, I mean, it's just sitting on top of a snap ring. I've seen other case savers just made out of hunks of aluminum with just the bolt holding them. You know, because the snap ring won't let it wobble. So the strain on this bolt, possibly minimal. But like I mentioned, and here's the flaw, the shouldered bolt they give you is shorter. And sure enough, when you put this through the case, again, this can't go up and down, so this is kind of fixed. The shouldered bolt will thread in, but it stops with a gap. So now it's relying on the, yeah, it's less than 1/4 inch, whatever size that is, to prevent that from moving. Now, is it a problem? Time will tell. Again, because most of your, it can't wobble. This big bolt is tight. So, again, I'm going to use them in lesser builds, I think. If I can get past in my head it has a flaw. And you know what's funny, and I wish maybe I'll do a little research, the only problem is the bolt. I took the bolt from the FTI and everything goes together fine. This tightens right up against it. This still fits in the case. Again, you don't have a lot of movement, you don't have any movement. Everything works as intended. But in all things copied, they always miss something. In this case, it's in the hardware, big surprise. Surprised they didn't miss anything bigger than that. I'm surprised they didn't completely screw this up. Now, I have not tried it as far as clearance goes. I mean, it looks like they did a really good job trying to copy it. It's different in a few areas, appearance-wise, but it does fit, and it does work. So the flaw is the shouldered bolt isn't long enough. So, I need to end this video going down a small rabbit hole of Turbo 400 safety. This week, I believe Tuesday of 6th summer, Dragon Drive event, a guy put his Turbo 400 through the windshield of his, I believe, his 4th gen Camaro. It splintered parts all over the starting line. Somebody picked them all up, set them on the wall, and took a picture. The reason why I knew it was a Turbo 400, because I'm looking right at a case saver. This kind of a unique piece, only seen in a Turbo 400 in that exact shape. And I read on all the forums. I'm on the forums quite a bit. So when it comes to any safety item, racing related, I feel there's only two schools. You don't know the danger, or you know the danger and you don't care. If there's more options, let me know. If you know something is dangerous and you choose to still sit next to it with no protection, that's a whole nother thing between just not knowing it. And the not knowing portion, that's, I guess, where the tech department at the drag strip should point it out to you. I don't know how. For instance, I'm a big Cletus McFarlane fan. He's doing the Cheap Car Challenge during Sick Week. He shows a video underneath the car yesterday. No dry shaft loop, no protection on the 480E, which is just a Turbo 400 with an overdrive. Running mid 9-second ETs. I know he knows better. What happened with tech? How does that even happen? That's an insult to anybody that's actually passing tech with their vehicle, don't you think? But back to the forums, many people ask, and this is a couple times a week, at what power level should I put a SFI bell housing? They always say Ultra Bell, but that's just a brand. It's like calling all trucks Mack trucks. There's other brands. So at what ET or power level do I need an aftermarket bell housing? Well, that's a nice addition, but that is not protecting you from the real danger, which is, the direct drum, second gear area of a Turbo 400, which is right in the middle of the transmission. You need a blanket or a shield. There's some shields that the CSI that, is a tight-fitting carbon fiber thing. The old blanket, which is $60 to $100. A shield, which is a couple $100. I've never had a shield on a Turbo 400 and not have it fit into a cop. Some people just look at it and say it won't fit. I don't know what they're putting it in, but I put it in some pretty tight stuff. It always seems to fit. So you need both pieces. The bell housing's a great upgrade. Whether you're changing the engine, need a different bell housing. Whether you don't want to run the flex plate shield over your SFI flex plate, which is the rule. I didn't make the rule. That's just the way it is. But that is all the aftermarket bell housing accomplishes, is saving you from having to run a metal shield over the flywheel, but it does not protect the transmission itself. And that word is not getting out there. So I have to say it over and over again for the next year, and still they won't, nothing will change. That's just the way it is. Let's face reality. I'm just talking to the people that already know. We'll finish out by talking about aftermarket Turbo 400 cases. I stumbled when I was talking about lesser transmissions and using this. Well, if you already have all the good parts, but you're still running a stock case, it is what it is. But if you choose an aftermarket case, there's a few available. Reed is the top of the food chain, the most expensive, the most respected, the one you're going to get your money back on. They're a phone call away. You can talk to them. You can send it back and have it upgrade. The SFI cert redone. It's only good for 5 years. No question, if you have a transmission built in a Reed case, it's worth more. With a Reed case, you can build a completely stock automatic shifting Turbo 400. They have every passage and everything you need, plus extra things, extra ports and everything. They literally thought of everything. And there's two versions. They have an off-road version and a drag race version. Next step down, but still, if you have, pick a series, whatever they call the street outlaws these days, a Pro Mod, whatever, you either have a Reed case or you have an ATI. ATI's prevalent out there too. in their cases, you have to have a manual valve body. They don't even cast in a governor, passage, or cover or anything, I don't believe. I think it's all naked back there. So there's no provisions for auto shifting. It has to be manual shifting, which in a racing transmission, not a big concern. The ATI case, you can buy an ATI case with the bolt-on bell housing for the price of just the reed case, which you still have to buy a bell housing for. So, but those are your only two options where you're going to see value in the future, and not to mention deal with a better product and not have silly problems like the rest are going to bring you. So the Jegs and Summit branded Turbo 400 case is made by Transmission Specialties, and in Summit's case anyway, they also sell the Transmission Specialties case, which is their case. They charge more for their case than they do for the Transmission Specialties case, and I want that one to be good. I wanted it to be good. I bought one. What I received is a case where the modulator bore was too big. They set a hokey-looking, larger-than-life modulator valve, and I had a transmission with a transbrake valve body for the transmission that came with a valve that was very specific to the valve body, which you could throw into that hole in the case they made. So if I pressed it, I suppose I could have sent it back. I did end up using it with a different valve body, and it functioned and it works. The rest of it went together fine. In advantage to the reed case anyway, and I don't remember the ATI, but you don't need to worry because the lugs are all the way around the case. And in the hardware kit, they give you a heavy-duty snap ring. So they've addressed the need for a case saver. You don't need one in those transmissions. The Speedmaster case, Pro Comp case, whatever they call it, I've never talked to anybody that put one together online. I mean, the case is half price. It's like all other Speedmaster products. The disappointment is in there. It's up to you to find it, or it's going to find you. I'm not willing to spend $1,000 to even try one. If you have one you're just kicking around and you want me to try to put it together, feel free to send it to me, and I'll build a transmission out of it right here and see if it works. But that's as close as I'm probably going to get to one of those because, again, while I want this stuff to be both affordable and good, you got to pick one, I guess. So, you know, the reed case at $2,200, whatever it is, you know, you buy a reed case and a reed bell housing, you don't need any safety shields. That is your safety shield. They're ballistic. You know, for 5 years, they got an SFI rating, and then you got to have it re-tagged. So that's it for today. We covered a lot of ground, talked about some stuff. I'm going to go have a snack. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope your weather's decent. Boy, it's been a rough spring weather-wise, but it's the grass is green anyway. We've had a lot of rain. Don't know about you. Take her easy.